Hi all, and welcome to another Tuesday Dux-Soup webinar. I'm Jo Henderson and I work in the marketing team at Dux-Soup, and today I'm joined by Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services. I'm here every 2 weeks along with expert hosts, including our Dux-Soup team and guests too, all of whom join us to share their LinkedIn and Dux-Soup insights to help you grow your network and build your business. So whoever joins me in this session, you can be sure to be showered with a torrent of LinkedIn automation tips and tricks to get your LinkedIn lead generation alive. If you have any questions as we run through the content today, just add them into the questions box on the Dux dash, not the Dux dash, no, on the go-to dash, and we'll answer them either during the session or during our live Q&A at the end. I'll also be sharing any links that are referred to in the chat box, and anyone attending the session will be sent the recording later today. However, in a change to normal circumstances, I won't be uploading the content to the website until later next week, and that will continue for the remainder of the foreseeable, I think. So the best way to stay ahead of the lead generation game and get a head start on everyone else is to make sure you attend our live sessions in person, well, online in person. And be here every 2 weeks, and then you'll get all the good stuff. As always, if you are enjoying what Dux-Soup has to offer, don't forget to leave us a G2 review, the opportunity to win one of our lovely limited edition caps. Simply add today's date into the comments, and I will send out the review link in a little while. If you're new to Dux-Soup, and I know a lot of you are today, then please take advantage of our free trial. Again, I'll send that link to you shortly, but with that you can get access to all of our features that we'll be covering today. So with that, let's get started with our session, how to generate leads on LinkedIn. And in a slight change to normal, I'm going to be presenting a few of these slides. Yay! So here we go, let's move on, because we've done that one already. So the agenda for today, so we're going to have a little look at what Dux-Soup is. So as I've said, we've got quite a few newbies on today, so we can give you a bit of lowdown on what Dux-Soup is, how it works. We'll be looking at leveraging connections and how you can do that with various different approaches. We'll be talking about your LinkedIn generation, so your lead generation objectives and how you can achieve those using campaigns. And then we always have a live Q&A at the end. So whoever is on here with me, then feel free, you can ask the questions, as I said, in the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel, and then I put them to whoever's sat with me, which today is Giles, at the end of the session, and we talk about what we think the answers are, or what we know the answers are, that's what I should say. If we could ping on to the next one, Giles, please. So what is Dux-Soup? It's a Chrome extension, which is compatible with other browsers too. And we use it to mimic human behavior on LinkedIn, on the LinkedIn platform. You can use it with the free version of LinkedIn, with Sales Navigator. You can use it with Recruiter Lite and Recruiter. And you simply select the list that you want Dux-Soup to process in terms of your contacts, connections, or potential prospects. And then you can get Dux-Soup to run the chosen activities against that list. Remember, human behavior is key to this. So we will be talking through how you can make sure that you are mimicking human behavior and how Dux-Soup helps to keep it that way later on in the session. Next one, please. So which Dux-Soup plan is right for you? We have 3 plans. We have the Pro plan, the Turbo plan, and the Cloud plan. So the Pro plan helps you with your automated outreach. The Turbo plan is how you can scale your outreach and scale your lead generation by using campaigns, and we'll have a look at that later on in the session too. And the Cloud campaign is basically the same as the Turbo in terms of all the features that you get with your plan, but with Cloud, it stays on when you decide to go on holiday. So for me, the Cloud plan is brilliant because you can have a break, you can set all your actions, you can set all your timings in your schedule, and you let Dux-Soup run it for you while you go off and have a nice lunch or go on holiday and turn the laptop off, which I think nowadays is quite crucial. So that is all about which Dux-Soup plan, and Giles will cover a little bit more about some of the aspects of these plans later in the session. So one thing we also wanted to kick off in this, in terms of your generating of leads, is how different mechanisms can help you to grow your network. So here we just have a little touch on what the difference is between organic growth and paid growth. So this is organic growth is basically for businesses or people who want to nurture your connections and you don't have a budget, or you've decided not to use your marketing budget for this purpose. Now, it's perfect because it allows you to have a very personalized approach in your messaging and engagement. It helps you to build lasting relationships because you will be endorsing, you will be liking, you will be commenting on people's posts. It does, however, require time investment. So for a lot of us with smaller businesses who don't have big marketing budgets, this is perfect. It just means that you've got to have a bit of a plan and a strategy around how your time can be spent on this side of things. And this is where Dux-Soup in particular can help you. So in comparison to that, paid growth is perfect for companies or businesses who do have a nice, lovely marketing budget, or you have a specific campaign that's coming up that you really want to drive attention and focus on. So a paid growth is good if you are driving quick results for something. So if you have an event coming up or something you want to highlight or an offer and that's focusing for next month, paid growth may be a good way of targeting that rather than organic. There's no engagement needed, so you're literally just advertising something and pushing it out there to everybody, and hopefully people will see it. So you're not building relationships with people, and it costs you a lot of money. So we want to kind of focus more on the organic growth today, and that's why we've got this slide in there, just so it gives you a bit of an understanding about the difference between paid and organic growth. So in that, I'm gonna hand over to the lovely gentleman there who's nodding. Giles,
hopefully I'm not, so everyone can hear. Cool, thanks, Joe. For anyone who's new to these webinars, welcome, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. And yeah, my name's Giles. I'm head of professional services here at Dux-Soup. And one of the things, I think the context that that Joe's given us there sort of sets the scene quite nicely. And one of the things I noticed that she mentioned there was hopefully, well, actually, all of the things we're going to show you here today will take the chance out of this. It will give you more certainty going forward. A lot of people sort of, have an allergic reaction when they hear the words automation. We've all been victims of automation. We've all had those connection requests coming to us, which are blatantly automated. It's not personalized, it's not well thought out, it's got spelling or grammar mistakes, it looks automated. And if it looks automated, the chances are it is automated. The trick is where you put the effort into your messaging and your targeting, and that's where you get a much greater benefit out of these sorts of tools. We pride ourselves at Dux-Soup as Joe mentioned earlier, the robot is there to mimic human behavior. It's there to automate all of those boring, repetitive actions that you don't want to spend your time doing. You shouldn't spend your time doing. However, to get the most out of such a tool, you have to put in some work up front in order to leverage what you've got. So what we're going to cover on today. So why would you automate? Yeah, because you're short of time. Maybe your budget is an issue. You need to scale. You need to scale up. And in order to do that consistently and appropriately, you need a consistent approach. You need a process. And whichever version of Dux-Soup you're using, whether that's the Pro version, the Turbo version, or the Cloud version, hopefully there's something in here for everyone. So why automate? Yeah, you're short on time. You want to focus on those activities, and you need good quality automated processes. This is an investment in yourself or your own business. Remember that it's a time investment and a relatively small financial investment, insofar as depending on which subscription you go for, of course. So one resource that many people forget about is their existing network. Your first degree connections. I speak to many people every day, every week, who have got maybe 3, 5, 8,000 connections, and they do nothing with them. They forget about them. I've got these connections. Yeah, I've collected all of these first degree connections, but yeah, they're not doing anything with them. And there's loads of ways that you can leverage this population going forward to help you with at least improving your visibility and ultimately growing your business. Using Dux-Soup, you could message them all directly to see what they're up to and remind them of what you're doing. You could just go and visit them, get Dux-Soup to auto visit those profiles to trigger a notification that they might see. One other thing that you can do is you can find key connections, so maybe even competitors, former colleagues, those sorts of things, and go and have a look at their network. So you're looking at your connection, the connections of your connections. Now, one thing to be aware of here is not always visible. Some people hide their connections, but that can be an incredibly rich source of data, depending on your industry, depending on the size of your network. So remember, all of this, you could be outreaching, you could be sending connection requests, you could be just simply visiting. All of these things are valid lead generation activities. We'll just jump onto into sort of show you how that looks before we move on to the next slide. So if I come out of the slides and I go to my LinkedIn profile, this is me on LinkedIn. Please feel free to send me a connection request if you'd like to. Mention that you attended a Dux-Soup webinar, and then I'll connect with you quicker, because if you mention Dux-Soup, I always accept those ones a lot quicker than just a blank connection request. So I want some context as to why you're reaching out to me. So this is me on LinkedIn anyway. Now, you see here, I've got there 500 plus connections. Okay, great. Now, if I go and look at some other profiles, this won't be blue. If I go to my colleague, Scott, who's not with us today, I think he's enjoying some luxury vacation or something, probably. I'm only kidding. This is Scott's profile on LinkedIn. If I click here, I can see he's got over 500 connections, and I can see here, okay, there's a bunch of them that we have mutual connections. If I get rid of the first degree connections there, and I just look at second degree connections, we've got here 173 results. That is great. I can now run my Dux-Soup activities against this list. These are people who we have a mutual connection, and I could now run my actions against this. For anyone who's new to Dux-Soup and how it works, what I'm waiting for now is the Dux-Soup icon in the top right-hand corner to turn green and say, at your service. It's just done that right on time, which is always a relief, because sometimes when I'm running Zoom, it runs a bit slower. What we have here then is I've got 173 people, got a mutual connection, which is Scott. I've got now all sorts of different options. So we'll be covering these a little bit repeatedly during the course of this webinar, because there'll be a bit of overlap with some of the other stuff. But if I've got the pro version, that's the lowest price, the lowest tier version, I could now, for example, just go and visit all of those profiles. I could just go and say to Dux-Soup, go and visit all of those profiles, and Dux-Soup would open each profile in turn. It would trigger a notification. Some of them may see it, some of them may not, but it will trigger some notifications, and some people definitely will see it. I could also, again with the pro version, I could do a visit and connect, and I could send a connection request. That connection request is for something else at the moment, but there we go. I could put in my connection request here and do visit and connect. Dux-Soup starts at the top of the list, works its way through, and sends that connection request. So I've got, immediately here, I've got a list of people. They are relevant to my network because they're connected to my colleague. So immediately I've got that in. I could use other filters as well. I could use Sales Navigator filters to manipulate this list. But by using key contacts in my network, I can then sort of piggyback onto their network to then carry out actions. We'll touch on some of the actions that I can use from a campaign perspective against different lists later, but it's effectively the same concept. I could build a campaign and then get Dux-Soup to execute those in either Turbo or in Cloud for me against this list. So this is something to really, really think about and nurture. Think about not just your first degree connections, think about your immediate, those key connections of your key connections, should we say. If I'm looking here at my first degree network, so let's come out of that one and let's just go back to my first degree network here. So there we go, there's my first degree network. Similarly here, I could carry out some sort of search here with filters. I could use Sales Navigator. And again here, I could be running an action against these. And this could be auto visiting, again, that notification thing. It could be an outreach message. It could be a campaign with a series of messages if I have Turbo or Cloud. So all of these things are possible. So don't forget, that first degree network is valuable in so many ways. And remember, every person you add to your first degree network, your second and third degree networks automatically become bigger and more extensive. So that's something to really think about in your approach to making the most of not just Dux-Soup, but also that LinkedIn database. Something that we were going to talk about as well during the course of this webinar is objective setting. whenever you're carrying out any actions on LinkedIn, whenever you're sort of thinking about campaigns, whenever you're thinking about growing your network, you've got to have objectives. It needs to be clear. You need to have an ordered way of working, whether you're using Pro or Turbo or Cloud. You've got to have those things in place. There's no point in doing the old scattergun approach, as it were. So, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, when you could send hundreds of invites per day, it didn't matter. People just set the robot off and leave it to run, and hopefully the people would appear. Now you need to be much more clear in your approach, much more thoughtful in what you're doing. So whether you're using Pro or Turbo or Cloud, you need to have clear target groups aligned with your outreach actions. So with Pro, that would be a case of thinking about, okay, what actions am I carrying out against which population? Am I sending connection requests? Am I auto visiting, or am I sending in-mails, or am I sending direct messages? You would need to manually track the success of this. If you're using Pro, you need to be well organized, and you would be checking how many actions you're performing per day and monitor the size of your network on a regular basis. So you go into My Network, and I noticed that somebody's just asking if the webinar is going to happen. So hopefully everything's working, the technology is working correctly. Maybe Joe can have a look at that. So you've got to monitor the size of your network if you're a Pro user, and you want to be monitoring, of course, your mailbox. Now with the Cloud and the Turbo versions, you have access to what we call the funnel. The funnel gives you your progress of your campaigns as they're running. And because you can build as many different campaigns as you like in Turbo and Cloud, you can really easily set up an A/B test and see what works the best. Hopefully, Joe will put into the chat box how you can A/B test. We did a webinar, and there's an associated blog post as to how to set up good A/B testing in Cloud and Turbo. So let's have a quick look at the funnel, because then we can have put some context on how we can monitor our campaigns. If I take here, I'm in Turbo here, what I would have done to get to my Dux-Dash, I would have clicked on my extension icon and gone down to the Dux-Dash here, and this is the funnel flow here. And per campaign and per date range, I can have a look in here and see how my campaign is progressing. As I enroll people into my campaigns, I'd see the number here going up, and then per day, as my invites go out, I would see this number increasing. And if I'm targeting well, if I've got good campaign messages, then I will also then see the acceptances creeping up. And as the acceptances creep up, my follow-ups will go up. If I've got good engagement and good content in my campaigns, and we've covered that with Scott in some of our previous webinars, I would then see, of course, my response is increasing. So very clearly here, I can see how my campaign is progressing. And if I've set my objectives, now your objective could be simply to get out 150 invites a week. That could be your first objective. Second objective could be to achieve maybe a 20% acceptance rate. If you're not achieving 20% acceptance rates, then you need to think about what you're doing to improve things. You need to think about how you can make that better. Because to be absolutely honest, most people I speak to, if they've put some thought into, if they put thought into their campaign and they've targeted well, I'm seeing regularly, quite achievable a 20% acceptance rate. And then you want to think about the responses. The responses, of course, will depend upon what message you've sent and how those follow-up messages are looking as well. So think about all those objectives, think about the number of people you're going to send those invites out to, the acceptances, etc., etc. So all of that sort of helps to build and paint the picture when it comes to objective setting. Of course, whenever you're building a good process, of course, you can then measure, and as you measure, you can then refine things as we go. Okay, so we're going to nip back to Pro here because I don't want to forget about the Pro users. So as we mentioned earlier, you've got to be really well organized with your actions. Think about who you're going to be doing, what you're going to be doing against which lists. There's also a blog post which outlines all of the different lists that Dux-Soup will run against. I just saw a question, what is the limit in connection requests? 150 per week. That, of course, is the question that comes up every week or every 2 weeks when we do our webinars. And hopefully Joe can share the two articles, the two blog posts that we've got related to this. One's around weekly limits and one's about keeping your LinkedIn account safe. And we'll probably cover that in the Q&A towards the end, to be absolutely honest. So hang on the line. So yeah, What lists have you got? What actions are you taking? Use Dux-Soup tagging to help you track if you're using Pro. The tagging feature is very, very useful. If you tag each profile as you carry out an action against it, then you've got then traceability as to who you've reached out to in the past. You can make sure you're not double messaging people as well. So yeah, there's an article about tagging as well, which hopefully will be yeah, Joe's just put it in there right on time. Be aware of the limits placed on accounts by LinkedIn. So if you're running a free LinkedIn account and LinkedIn think that you're using the platform for commercial purposes, they will throttle you. The number of connection requests, the number of personalized connection requests, the length of your messages as well, your outreach messages. So be aware of all of that, covered in one of those blog posts that Joe's just shared around weekly limits. So that's the actions with Pro. So if we think about the actions that we can carry out with Pro, the primary ones, sending a connection request. We can do that to second and third degree connections. Direct messages, first degree connections. You find a list of first degree connections and send them a direct message. In mails, of course, second and third degree connections. Visit only, any profile you like. It will trigger a notification as long as you've got your visibility settings set correctly. Cool, right, so let's show you how to do all of those, and then we can sort of move on to the campaign stuff on Turbo and Cloud. So connection requests with second and third degree connections if we've got Dux-Soup Pro. So here we go. I've got a search result here, and I want to maybe send out some connection requests to some second degree connections. So here we go. I've now built I've got a list here. Now, I would spend more time refining this list normally. I've got some Boolean search terms in here. I've got a search result here of, yeah, too many. You only remember see the first 1,000 results of a search result when you're in regular LinkedIn. And now, once again, I'm waiting for the Dux-Soup icon in the top right-hand corner to turn green. And when that turns green, that's Dux-Soup telling me that it's recognized what's on the page is a list that it can process. There we go. So now if I've got the Pro version and I wanted to reach out to these people, I would click on my Dux-Soup icon. I would press here. I would put in my connection request here, hi _FN_ first name. There's my connection request. I could press visit and connect now, and then Dux-Soup will go out and visit these people. We mentioned tagging just now. I can add a tag to all of these people if I go into my Dux-Soup options. I can go up here to the top right-hand corner. There we go. And there we go. I can here under my automated actions, I could say, yep, I'd like to tag everybody with, I don't know, invite. Then I would be tagging everyone with that invite. Let's go back to my list here, go in here. If I now press visit and connect, Dux-Soup would start sending connection requests to those people. What I'm actually going to do, just so you can see it running, I'm going to turn off the message and just send a couple of blank connection requests so you can actually see how that works. So what we'll see now is we'll see Dux-Soup reload the page and it will start opening each profile in turn and start to send those connection requests on my behalf. Now I'm hoping I didn't put the robot onto snooze. I don't think I did. So we'll see that happen in a second. We'll see the dialogue coming up. I want to see this actually live because then there's more value in seeing what the robot is doing. You'll notice that the color of the icon in the top right hand corner has turned blue. That's telling me that Dux-Soup is active and it's now gathering the data from the page. And what we'll see in a second, in the bottom right hand corner, we'll see it open the first person and then it will start to send my connection request and add that tag that I added there as well, which gives me the traceability. So there we are, it's opening that profile that was at the top of the page. There you are, it's opening that information. It's now literally mimicking the clicks of the mouse on the screen. It's gonna go down, gather some more information, send my connection request, add that tag, close that, and then move on to the next one. And it will follow the rules that I've set up in the background regarding the numbers it will do per day and the speed it will run at. There's some settings that we can play around with there to make sure that it's active. If we've got Pro, remember we need to keep our computer on and we need to keep our browser open, and then Dux-Soup will now follow my instructions. Now I can click away from this and leave this in the background and carry on with some other work. But effectively now I've automated my outreach. I've built a list, I've built a message, I'm sending a connection request, I'm labeling everybody. I can now get on with something else. So that's how we can automate some actions very, very simply using Dux-Soup Pro. just going to wait for that connection request to go, and then I'll stop the robot and we'll move on to the next example. There we go. It's added the tag and it's sending the connection request. So that's as simple as that to be able to do that. And it would, yeah, if I'm now doing something else, it'll just carry on in the background. We will, there we go. It's just going to do that a second. So remember, this is reaching out with a connection request. What we'll do is we'll stop the robot there, and what we'll do is we'll just go back to our slide a second. So here we are, we have connection request for second and third degree connection. Now, if I had a list of first degree connections, I could send everybody a direct message. So let's go back to our search result here, and let's just look at first degree connections. Any second now, there we go. So here we go. If I look here, I've got 65 people who meet my search criteria here. These are all first degree connections. So using Dux-Soup again, Dux-Soup Pro again here, what I can do is I can now send everybody here a direct message. And of course, because they're already connected to me, I can send them a much longer message. So, and again, once the robot's turned green, I can click on my options here, and I can say, right, I'm not going to send a connection request. I'm now going to send a personalized message to all of my first degree connections. Now, I might give them another tag while I'm doing this. I don't know. I'm going to call this Dux Cloud message, for example. There's my message. I've got a direct message here. It's a longer message because these are already first degree connections. And now to get this to execute, all I would need to do is click on my Dux icon and say visit profiles. And during that auto visit, everyone on this list will get my direct message. You can put URLs in that message, and this also works, I should say, also in Sales Navigator. I could be running this from Sales Navigator as well. So all of these possibilities are available to you. And then similarly, if I'm in Sales Navigator, I could also send an in-mail and do exactly the same process, turn this one on, go to my Sales Navigator search, and again say just visit, and during the visit, it would send my in-mail message. We've got a really, really good workaround to be able to maximize your in-mail outreach, which hopefully Joe will be able to share the blog post for that one in a second. Helps you go way over and above your normal in-mail credits. So have a look at that one if you use in-mail and you've got Sales Navigator. And then finally, and this one is the most underestimated one of all, and it's forgotten about by so many people, I can turn off all of these options here and ask Dux-Soup not to carry out any actions, and literally just go and say to Dux-Soup, please go and visit these profiles. Just open the profiles and Dux-Soup will visit everybody on that list. One thing you need to make sure when you're doing that, to make sure there's some value in it, you want people to see that you visited them. So what you all should also do is go into your settings in LinkedIn, and you should make sure that people can see that you're visiting them. So here under your account settings, go to your visibility here and say profile profile viewing options. I want to see that people have seen that I've seen them, if that makes sense. So every profile I visit, they'll see that I have visited them. Excellent. I'm advertising that I am active on the platform and busy, and going to be hopefully getting some people to at least visit me back. I always think there's kind of three phases to this whole process. You want people to, first of all, visit you. Second of all, you want them to connect with you. And third of all, you want to get them into a conversation. If you can tick all of those three boxes, you're really going to be able to grow your network and really sort of start to leverage everything that's here on LinkedIn. Okay, back to the slides. So that was sort of thinking about the different actions that we have in Pro. Just conscious of time as well, and I want to make sure there's lots of time for questions. If we talk then about Turbo and Cloud. So remember, with the Pro version, we keep our computer on, Dux-Soup runs live on that tab. You have to keep the tab open, but it can be in the background, and Dux-Soup will just keep busy for you, following your rules, organizing, sending out all of those messages or carrying out those actions for you. With Turbo and with Cloud, you can build endless campaigns. Well, not endless campaigns, you can build as many campaigns as you like with up to 12 actions in it. Not quite endless. So you build all sorts of different campaigns for different audiences, and then you just enroll people into your campaigns, and then you monitor everything through the funnel. You can monitor how many people have been invited, how many have accepted, how many have messaged you back, And then you can review all of those responses to decide on what happens next, because that's the beauty of the campaigns. You have maybe 6 or 10 steps in your campaign. If somebody responds to you mid-campaign, the campaign stops or pauses until you decide what happens next. So let's have a quick dive into what a campaign looks like and how quickly we can get people into a campaign. So again, I'm going to go back to my Dux dash here. Get there, remember, click on the icon on the extension. We go down to the Dux dash here, and then over on the left-hand side, we see here we've got the drip campaigns option. So here, this is where I can go in and define all my different types of campaigns. So again, we're thinking about outreach for outreach for second and third degree connections, possibly in mails, direct messages to first degree connections, and maybe just auto visiting as well. Now remember, you may be limited as to how many connection requests you can send, depending on your account type and all sorts of other factors, but you can probably still visit hundreds of profiles a day on LinkedIn. So there's always value in having those auto visits happening. You want the robot to be working on your behalf. You don't want to be sleeping and dormant and doing nothing. So make sure you are visiting lots of profiles and you will get more traction. So here, for example, I've got several different types of campaigns. So here we go. I've got one that's just called auto visiting. So here I've got a campaign auto visit. It opens a profile, it visits it once, and then it visits a second time a month later, and a third time a month after that. So if I put somebody into this campaign, doesn't matter who, they're going to get 3 visits from me over 3 months. And that's great because they're going to get notified that I visited them. I've also got here, for example, a campaign to outreach for new connections, and for some reason that's changed to 30, and that should have been 5. There we are. Oh, there we go. Should be not 30. That should be 1 day. There we go. That's where it should be. That's how it was. So here, this is my outreach message for second and third degree connections. Starts with an auto visit. Again, they get notification. A few days later, my connection request. And then with Cloud and Turbo, Dux-Soup monitors for the acceptance. And once they've accepted, it queues up this first follow-up message. Once that message has gone, it then queues up the next action, and so on and so forth. Remember, we can add lots of different steps into our campaigns. We can delay things for days, weeks, months, whatever we want to do. And if somebody responds, the campaign pauses until you decide what happens next. So there we are, that's our outreach message. And then similarly here, we've got here a first degree campaign. So this is people, this one doesn't contain a connection request. Again, I'm starting with an auto visit, and then I've got a follow-up message, and then a second follow-up message, and so on and so forth. So here I've got all sorts of different types of campaigns which I can then leverage towards different audiences. If I've got Turbo and Cloud, I've got all of these campaigns all ready to go. I come across a prospect, brilliant. I can just enroll them into a campaign, set and forget. Perfect. It's really, really simple the way that you can put your lead generation actions on autopilot. Really, really simply. So let's take, for example, say I've got, well, let's go back to find Scott's profile again. Here we go, and let's go and see what let's go in here. Let's have a look at his connections again here. There we go. So back to what we were doing earlier. So maybe I think, yeah, okay, I'm not interested in the first degree connections because those are people who I know. Let's have a look at our second degree connections here. Okay, well, maybe I'd like to visit all of these people just to maybe gather their data, or maybe get their attention that I visited them. What I'm going to do now is wait for the Dux-Soup icon to turn green. There we go. I can now click on I've got a couple of ways of doing this here. I should mention there's 2 different ways of doing this. I could use the widget at the side here and cherry pick who goes into my campaign. Or I can do it in bulk, and that's a much more efficient way to work. The most efficient way to use Turbo and Cloud is to build a good quality list and then do a bulk enrollment, because you literally then can say, right, set it, forget it, and get on with something more useful. If I press the enroll profiles button here, select whichever campaign I want. I'm just going to take the auto visits one here, and maybe I'd like to get Dux-Soup to do all 173. There we go. I'm going to put in 173, press OK. Dux-Soup's now going to go into these people. It's going to enroll all of these people into that campaign. And because I've got Dux-Soup Turbo running here, so if I click on my icon up here, you'll see it's Dux-Soup Turbo. Dux-Soup is now going to enroll all of these people into this campaign. If any of these people are already in this campaign, it's going to skip past them. I can't put them in the same campaign twice. And then, yeah, it's going to start executing those actions, and then I can start monitoring that through my funnel. Now, in this case, I'm just doing auto visits. I'm not sending out connection requests here, but if I put connection requests in there, then those would also be executed. With Turbo, what we'll see is as every action is executed, it will open a new little tab as it starts the actions, and I suspect we'll see it kick off in a second. We were then, there you are, so we can see it's enrolled 9 in there, so someone's already got into that campaign before. And what we'll see in a second, we'll probably start to see some new tabs opening in LinkedIn shortly as Dux-Soup starts to execute those chosen campaign activities. I'm going to leave that running for a second, and I'm going to pop back to the slides, and let's go back here. So there we are, Turbo and Cloud, different campaign types, simple, second degree, third degree outreach, in mails if you want. First degree campaigns, outreach, messaging, nurture campaigns, visit only. Don't be afraid to use Dux-Soup to visit hundreds of profiles. Get people's attention, remind people what you're doing, remind them that your business is there and you're out there and you're active and you want to be seen. The checklist for today, quite a lot of talking now. Do you want to automate? How can you leverage this amazing platform that is LinkedIn with a huge amount of data, huge number of users, phenomenal resource, lots of influence, lots of people in influential positions, lots of decision makers. It is the go-to place for lead generation. Which version of Dux-Soup is appropriate for you? The Pro version, the Turbo version, the Cloud version? Remember, we've got a 2-week trial of Turbo. If you've not used Dux-Soup before, you get a 2-week trial. If you've used it before and you're not sure and you want to ping our support team a message, we can always arrange to extend that trial for you as well. If you've used it in the past and haven't sort of made a decision, that can also be arranged. Think about your budget, your processes, scalability, and then leveraging your network. That first degree network is key. The bigger it gets, the more useful it gets. Set your objectives, be very clear with your objective setting, and be working a really ordered way. The more effort you put it in up front, the better the quality of the rewards, the better the rewards will come through at the end. And then simply match your campaigns with your audiences. Doesn't matter if you're using Pro, Turbo, or Cloud, it's still the same concept. One list against one action or one campaign, whatever it may be. You will of course have different flavors, but you know, that's the beauty of the product insofar as you can have all of those different flavors of campaigns and approaches. And that all can all run in parallel as well. So that's everything I wanted to say for now. So I'm going to go to the next slide and say, Joe, have we had any questions?
Oh, great that you've asked. Yes, we have. Right, I'm going to go straight in. So Hagen has asked, Hagen, I'm really sorry. Let's go with Hagen. When LinkedIn is checking on IP addresses, so he's currently on Turbo, wants to potentially upgrade to Cloud. When LinkedIn is checking on IP addresses, how do you manage compliance with the Cloud version?
So the way that it's set up is basically when you initiate your Cloud session, Dux-Soup is effectively cloning your LinkedIn session in a secure environment, and it's using VPN to make sure that the location is correct as well. And then, a lot of people are quite nervous about sort of geolocation and that kind of stuff and parallel actions. You still have access to the Dux-Soup planner, so you can be assured that if you're running stuff locally, you put your Cloud session into snooze. The one thing that people are particularly worried about is parallel activities. So I would always recommend, make sure you're using that planner to say, okay, I'm going to be doing a load of stuff on LinkedIn manually. I'll have the Cloud on snooze for now, and then at other hours have the Cloud active. I mean, our support team can give you more details about that, but basically, that's how it works. And ping our support team a message. They will be more than happy to go into more detail if needs be. Hagen. I'm not sure either. Sorry.
Lovely.
I didn't see how it was written, so I'm guessing.
Let's have a look. The activity queue sometimes gets stuck with activities that stay there for a few weeks without being processed. Is there a way to reset the activity queue?
So if activities are getting stuck in your queue, it's usually because people have responded to you and the follow-up messages aren't being sent. I've seen this many times. So eventually those messages get auto-purged. But the reason they stay in the queue is because you may want to continue the campaign. Now, I assume this is a Dux-Soup user if they're using this terminology. So what I'm saying hopefully won't be completely obscure. If I come out of the slides a second, and I go back to the Dux dash, and I go to the funnel flow, usually you see messages that are, they're usually follow-up messages in your queue that haven't been processed. Those are, remember, people who've responded. You may want, of course, here from your funnel flow to continue that. So that's why that message stays there. You can always delete those queued up activities if you need to. Of course, if you turn a campaign off as well, then those messages those actions in your queue will stay there. They won't be deleted. If you delete a campaign, then anything in the queue gets deleted as well. So there could be a number of different reasons why that may be, but usually it's because there's a follow-up responses have come in. So here, for example, here people have responded. You've still, if that message is there, you've still got the option to press the continue button, and they can still get that next campaign message, which can be the case.
Thank you. Let's have another one. Martha has asked, how are all the invites not seen as spam by LinkedIn? Any ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the amazing way that Dux-Soup's been designed. So because Dux-Soup is mimicking human behavior, it's doing everything through the user interface. We're not exploiting the proprietary API of LinkedIn. If you make sure that your messaging is well thought out and personalized, it won't look like spam. And as long as you're targeting people correctly, they will not flag it as spam because it will look genuine. So that's really what we do. Of course, there's the daily limits as well, so you can't send hundreds of connection requests per day. That's really important. But yeah, we have seen people using Dux-Soup in an incorrect way and being flagged for spam, of course. But that's also down to how you implement this sort of solution.
Thank you. Here we go. Adam, I've just replied to you. How can I make sure I'm not reaching out to my current clients? That's from Raphael.
How can you make sure you're not reaching out to your current clients? Well, there's several different ways you can do that. First of all, you would filter your search results. You can, for example, especially if you've got Sales Navigator, you can exclude certain companies from your search result, from your list, so you can really filter it that way. You can use all the sorts of Boolean search terms accordingly as well to narrow down your search results. But then you can also use, now we're going to delve into a little bit more technical stuff. You can use what we call regex expression to be able to exclude certain words. So if we go to our Dux-Soup options here under our options, we have here some skipping rules. So here, for example, if I wanted to make sure I didn't reach out to anybody who had, in this case, SkyTeam, Microsoft, or Tesla in their preview that you see in a search result, I can use this text here to make sure that I'm skipping anybody with those strings of text in their profile. And I'm just going to find the support article that gives you all of this. Let me have a quick look. I'm sure I've got it here somewhere. Let me find. Yeah, if you can come up with the next question, and then I will find the article that covers this.
Yes, I can do that. Can I still be working on my browser while Dux-Soup is running in a separate window? Or is it pretty heavy RAM usage? I.e., would it be advised not to run something like YouTube videos?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand the question. So if you're using your computer, that will slow Dux-Soup down a bit because it will use up your computer resources, and Dux-Soup will throttle its behavior accordingly. If you're of course not using your computer and the computer's not gone to sleep, then Dux-Soup will be active and will be able to use all those resources. It will share the resources, and we know that Chrome is not the most, should we say, optimal environment sometimes. So yeah, Dux-Soup will just keep ticking away at its own speed. Now, for example, if we go here, we'll see here that Dux-Soup's still enrolling people. But I can't remember how long ago this was. About 10 minutes ago, I set this off to enroll people. You can see here it's just been enrolling people in the background. It's up to page 10 already, and that's because it's been able to run through that while I've been chatting away. Yeah, if you're using memory hungry applications, it will slow Dux-Soup down if you're using Turbo or Pro. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the nature of the technology.
Thank you. Atayala has asked, can I send members of a LinkedIn group connection requests?
Absolutely, yes. Dux-Soup can run against a list of group members, and you can send connection requests to them. To be honest, the most effective way to do that is probably from Sales Navigator. If you're a member of a group, you can see the population in Sales Navigator, and then you can add all the other filters in there. That's usually the best way of doing that, to be honest. If you go to a group member list in regular LinkedIn, it's an infinite scrolling list. That was the word I was thinking of, the infinite scrolling list. So at some point, Dux-Soup will time out as it scrolls down that list, but it will get well down that list. Now, for example, if you're a member of a group and there's 30,000 people, you're never going to see 30,000 results on a page. But yeah, you can run Dux-Soup against the list of group members. And that article, which covers lists, which I think Joe shared earlier, will also cover that as well.
Thank you very much. When I manually trigger automatic actions with the Chrome extension, would I have to manually stop the campaign so it doesn't interfere?
Sorry, can you say the first bit again, Joe? I didn't quite catch that.
When I manually trigger automatic actions in the Chrome extension, do I have to manually stop the campaign so it doesn't interfere?
I'm going to try and find the question because I'm not sure I understand. When I manually trigger.
1, 2, 3. Is the fifth one down? Hagen again.
Sorry, people, bear with us 1 second.
If he's doing an action manually, will it interfere with the campaign? So does he need to stop the campaign?
Oh, if you're doing stuff manually on LinkedIn, no, it won't interrupt things at all. Now it's slightly confusing because you can get Dux-Soup to manually execute actions, to automatically execute actions during a manual visit. No, if you're using campaigns, the campaign content is always leading. So it's effectively a list of commands that are sitting there waiting to be executed. So your campaign actions are always leading. If you're doing manual stuff in parallel, yeah, basically it'll probably slow Dux-Soup down a bit from running whatever actions are in your campaigns.
Okay. And let's see what else we've got. We've got some really good questions in today.
Yeah, it's really good. Some really good interactions today. It's great to see so many people engaged and curious as to how everything works.
Is it possible to extract people's email addresses so I can import them into my CRM? And that's from Catherine.
Oh, and can Catherine let us know what CRM she's using? That'd be really useful as well. Of course, yes. Yes, you can get Dux-Soup to, oh, blimey, sunshine. You can get Dux-Soup to gather email addresses for you. Depending on which version of Dux-Soup you're using, there's different ways of doing it. Let's come out of here a second. Oh, look, see there, Dux-Soup's executing a campaign action for me there as it's visiting a profile. So if you want email addresses gathered, what you'll need to do is make sure that you are recording profile data here, especially if you've got the Pro version. If you're recording profile data, every time Dux-Soup opens a profile, it will gather data around that profile, and that data then becomes available for download here in the extension. The data that you gather in there can be everything from LinkedIn URL to first name to where they work to how many connections people have got. If it's visible, an email address, you've got a greater chance of seeing email addresses of first-degree connections, remember. And all of that data is also available via the API. So, for example, if you have HubSpot, Pipedrive, or SharpSpring, see, it's a good segue, that, isn't it? You see here on the left-hand side, we have some direct integrations with Pipedrive, HubSpot, and SharpSpring. So you can have all of that data automatically, seamlessly put into your CRM. If you've got a different CRM, you can use Make or Zapier, some no-code platforms to have that data piped there. You can extract it to a Google Sheet and import it yourself if you want to. Or indeed, you can go to our feedback page, which I think Joe's got the link to, user suggestions page, and you can upvote any of the integrations that have been requested there, as we're hoping to implement some more direct integrations during the course of this year. If you're looking for non-first degree email addresses, we also have the possibility to purchase Dux-Soup points, which allows Dux-Soup, which gives you the option to do a lookup to see if there's an email address associated with a LinkedIn account. And then, yeah, you can buy that through the Dux store here. Again, the information I think is all covered in a blog post, which maybe Joe can dig out as well. We've covered this quite extensively in previous webinars as well. But yeah, Dux points is the way that you can look for non-first degree email addresses using Dux-Soup.
Let me write that down so I don't forget to find it. Dux points. I am just sending the feedback link out there. Now, also, I've just replied to someone, I think it was Robert, and suggested that you get in touch with support. And I've got a feeling I've copied the info at email address in there instead of the support email address. So
info at is the support email address, Joe.
Oh, that's fine then. I've just found a support one that I've made up from somewhere. Excellent, Robert. Get in touch with them on the info at email address that I've just sent you. Can I operate Dux-Soup through our company page?
No, you have to operate Dux-Soup through a personal page. You can only log on to LinkedIn with a personal account. You don't log on to LinkedIn with a company account at all. As a person, you then have rights to access a company page or to be admin for a company page. If you are an admin for a company page, you can run Dux-Soup against a list of page followers. That's company followers, for example. That's very, very normal, but you cannot automate actions on behalf of a company.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Nate, I'm just replying to you. Can I follow people and send them a request to follow my business page?
Yeah, you need to find the link for that and then just copy that link into your message. Yeah, so if you go and find the link for that, you maybe even create a tiny URL out of it and shorten that down so it's nice and concise. Send them a message or use Dux-Soup. There we go. Wrong one. There we go. Where were we? So yeah, whether you're using Pro or Turbo or Cloud, you can see here, there you are. You've got the follow any profile using standard LinkedIn there. Remember, you can't follow a profile if you're visiting them in Sales Navigator. Just be aware of that one, because it's not an option on the page. So that's why you can't do it. But again, in our campaigns, where are we? Drip campaigns. We can add in here. Follow action. So yeah, you can have a follow action in a campaign, or you can follow people through Pro during an auto visit.
Thank you. I've just sent that Dux Points link out as well on the chat for, I can't remember.
Yep, and I sent a second one as well, a slightly different one, which explains what they are. So
yeah, fabulous.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
No, that's fine. Sharif, you've asked about affiliates. What's the best way to promote Dux-Soup as an affiliate?
Yeah, I think reach out to our marketing team and they will provide you with some information. Would be the best way to do that, because there's all sorts of supporting material if you become affiliate. Yeah, and I think they will be able to furnish you with the appropriate information. Is that right, Joe?
Absolutely, that's fine. Yeah, Sharif, get in contact with either Eve Mallard, who sends out all our marketing stuff, or the info at email address and just ask the same question and we can send it all through to you, all the details. Let's have a look.
Oh, I've just seen Hagen's message. What I mean, Giles showed us how to have automations running, changing the options in automated actions, i.e., okay, do these send it? Okay, just for clarification here then. So all of those automated action settings that we see, where are we? Here, these ones here. These are, these were originally the Pro settings. So this was all that was available when you had the Pro version. When Dux-Soup was first released, nearly 10 years ago now, these were the options that you had. I would not, if you're using Turbo and you're using campaigns, I would not make use of any of these, to be honest. I would do everything through the campaigns because then it's tracked and it's logged and it's followed accordingly. I would not use these options personally if I'm using Turbo or Cloud. These are primarily for Pro users or in very specific cases if you want to do something outside of a campaign. If I'm triggering, you know, for example, if I wanted to do this here and I then sent, I then said right to Dux-Soup, I go and auto visit those profiles or whatever it may be, that would not interfere with the campaign, but it would slow everything down because it would use up my daily limits quicker as well. So that's some context for Hagen's question there as well.
Okay, could you just give us a quick lowdown on the support options? Because a couple of people I'm suggesting they have a call. Well, I just replied to them.
Yes, of course. So our support portal with all of our supporting documentation is here. If you've got a question, type in your question in here. So maybe you want to know about in-mails, you can type in in-mail and you can find the answers there, hopefully. If you can't find the answer, there's a live chat option with our fabulous support team here, who are available round the clock from Monday to Friday. So we've got people dotted literally all over the world who are able to answer those questions. And if they can't answer your question via mail or the live chat, then you would get the option to book a support call. And yeah, that would be either with myself or one of my colleagues, maybe Scott or somebody else. And we would then do a screen share to try and solve the problem. So yeah, you can book your support calls via our support team. All of our support is primarily done via live chat. If that can't solve your problem, then we would set up a call. We have some also additional services if you want some specific help. We've got booster and technical sessions available if you want, you know, assistance with training or building a Zapier integration or working out the best way to build your process, whatever it might be. So there are some paid for options there as well. So yeah, have a look at the website, go to our support portal here, which I will chuck the link to into the chat.
Lovely, thank you. I've noticed we still have some questions and we're still going to carry on answering them, but just before we lose those who aren't waiting for questions to be answered.
Or those who are about to go and watch the football.
Would you mind jumping on to the slide that shows what we've got coming up in a couple of weeks, and then we'll revert back to the remaining questions.
There we go.
Thanks, Giles. So this is a lovely gentleman called Johannes Huch. So for our next webinar in 2 weeks' time, we'll be joined by guest host Johannes, who is the CEO of Promonio, and he'll be sharing with us his B2B strategy that generated 90 meetings with C-level executives and closed deals worth $175,000 just from one LinkedIn campaign. So he's going to be talking us through how to generate go-to-market LinkedIn strategies and how to monitor campaign success. He'll be talking about how to use a growth modeling tool to forecast revenue generation for your clients. He'll be talking about how to generate LinkedIn messaging that's engaging for C-level decision makers and how to drive those C-level decision makers into converting using an integrated tech stack with Dux-Soup. So he'll also be doing a little bit of a demo using Dux-Soup and also Pipedrive, Teamfluence, Crystal Nose, Spark Toro, and Sharetivity. And all of this, as normal, will be followed with our live Q&A. So there'll be lots of good stuff coming from that session. So don't forget that we're moving to this model where you won't, unless you attend, you won't be able to review the recording until about a week later. So to get the benefit from the session, you're best to join it. I'm just going to pop the
registration link into the chat.
yeah, thanks. Multitasking and brain not engaging quite so well. There we go. So if you want to, if those not waiting for questions to be answered want to dive off or need to dive off, just register there before you disappear, and that's done then, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Now, for those,
I'm just gonna jump on there a second and just say thanks, Rob, for your comments. The comment from Rob there saying support team are absolutely fantastic. I can vouch for them personally. Help me out immensely. Really appreciate those comments, Rob. That's really nice to hear, and glad to hear that our support team are meeting your expectations. I see a question from Adam. When you tag profile as, where do you do this, and can you show us on screen? Of course. This is from Adam. There we go. Come out there. So when you're visiting a profile, so during an auto visit, Dux-Soup would be tagging a profile. So Dux-Soup is currently auto visiting this particular profile, and it would tag that profile there. I can visit another profile in LinkedIn, and I can manually add a tag. So you see here at the side, oh, just disappeared for a second. I'll have to wait for it to reappear in a second. I'll have a little widget appear in a second on the right-hand side. Any second now. And it's one of those, it always takes a bit longer when it's like waiting for the kettle to boil when you're making the tea, isn't it? Any second now, the widget will appear on the right-hand side, and I will then have the option to be able to manually add or remove tags, which can be a really useful thing. There we go. So there's all sorts of tags against this particular profile. So I can add tags there. Now, once I've got the tag set up, I can then use the search by tag option here. It's a slightly different interface depending on whether you're using Turbo or whether you're using Pro, but here this is the Turbo version. And I could now look up here and look for everybody who I've added a tag to, for example. It's slightly different interface in Pro compared to Turbo, as I say, but now I can actually, once I've got my list of tags here, I can export this to a CSV file. I can even, in a moment when the icon turns green, run Dux-Soup directly from this page as well. I saw another question from Catherine, which I'm going to answer on the fly. If I have an email address, can I add it to Dux-Soup so I can find the profile? Unfortunately not. You need the LinkedIn URL. There are lots of ways to gather LinkedIn URLs, but you do need the LinkedIn URL to be able to get Dux-Soup to run an action against it. So yeah, that's where we are currently with that one, Catherine, but thank you for your question.
Louis has asked an interesting question. Is it best to use Dux-Soup to grow your network, which then generates leads, or is it better to cold message right from the start?
Everyone has their own view and their own opinion and their own outlook, shall we say. There is no wrong and right, it's what works for you. And what we do see is that there's variance between different industries, between different demographics, age groups, regional variations, all sorts of different factors. Some people find blank connection requests work brilliantly in certain industries. Some people like the visit once, visit twice, then send a connection request. Purely down to your own personal view of the world, to be honest. All of these things are perfectly valid, and if they work for you, then they work for you. The great thing is with this sort of technology, you can try them all, and you can have, 3 strands running in parallel. Well, which one's being most successful? Number 3. In that case, I'm going to move to doing all of that. Do what you feel genuine, what feels genuine as well. Remember, we talked right at the back at the beginning of the webinar about we've all been victims of people who spam, people who use automation in a not very smart way, shall we say. I'm trying to put it politically correctly. People who abuse the technology and abuse the platform. So make sure that you're doing it genuinely. If your message looks genuine, if you've put thought, time, and effort into it, then people will respond in a much better way. Think about how you feel when you receive a message. Read the message back or think about the approach. How would I feel about that? I see, because I know a lot of people use Dux-Soup and use me as a test subject, shall we say, when I get enrolled into campaigns. I see, for example, okay, somebody listened to me last week, okay, and now this week they're now following me. I know probably next week I'll get an invite from them. I think it's perfectly respectable. It's a very respectful way of approaching people. some people aren't as savvy and aren't as quite as clued into that. But yeah,
We've just
that's anyway.
had a comment from one of the audience members, Rob, same Rob who said that support was amazing. I think were his words, aren't they? He has
He's our new favourite person.
Yeah, better to nurture, not annoy, in my view, which I think is the
Absolutely.
perfect strapline for it. Yeah. If you do business development well, the money will follow, is exactly what he said, and I completely agree with that. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Do you wanna come and help out?
Want to avoid the sunshine. We want to move from side to side.
We have a special audience member every week. Right, what else have we got? We've got a couple more. Steve has said, I have a large campaign going on but want to change the message content. Is there a way to update those that are already enrolled into a campaign?
I see Steve's already left, so hopefully he'll see this. Dux-Soup queues up only the next message. So if you've got like a 3, 4, 5 message campaign, you can change the text towards the end and safely acknowledge that nothing's yet been queued up. Dux-Soup only queues up one action at a time. So basically anybody you enroll from then on will get the new version, of course. A few people will still get the old version, perhaps, depending on where they are in the campaign. Often in these cases, best thing to do is to clone the campaign and then reinitiate. It's a slightly messy way of doing it, but yeah, once it's in the queue, you can't change the message.
Okay, I'll get in touch with Steve and just let him know where in the video to come back to.
Nice one.
Right, we've got 3 left. How can we reach multiple audiences at a time? How can we reach multiple audiences in one go? With
How
their
can you reach
name?
multiple? Yeah,
Hang on, I'm trying to decipher the code. There's a code to this.
Okay.
How? This is asking for a quick demo. That bit I do know. How can we reach multiple audiences at a time using their names and some other details just with a single click? Are you able to show which options we can use in a demo?
I've just found the question. How can we reach multiple audiences at a time? So say multiple different audiences at the same time with their names and some other details with a single click about our proposal, which options to use. Oh, basically what I would do here is, if you've got multiple different audiences, each audience should have a slightly different campaign. There'll be different wording, there'll be different personalizations there. It could be using first name, you could be using industry. It could be that, you're building a different campaign for each one. So very, very simply, and I think Abdul's left, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't demo. Basically, you end up with, where are we? Different campaigns. So we go here, we've got our different drip campaigns, all your different options here are all ready to go. And then you go to your search results in regular LinkedIn or Sales Navigator, and from the sidebar, you cherry pick who goes into which campaign. Simple as that. You just say, oh yeah, I want to put Michael G into that campaign, and you press enroll, and then Anita into another campaign. You just scroll down and decide on who goes into which campaign. That is the easiest way to do it. And then it's all queued up and all the magic then happens in the background. And that would work with either Turbo or with Cloud.
Okay, fabulous, thank you.
Well deciphered.
Turns out I should have just said, can you read it? We have one question from Russell. Now you may have covered this earlier, but I was typing and not really listening, sorry. Can you mark certain companies as do not connect with connections at this company?
No, you basically need to use the regex skipping when you do the enrollment, or filter the companies out in your search result, especially if you're in Sales Navigator. You can specifically exclude certain companies if you want to. That's the easiest way to do it. That's how I would do it. I would make sure that I'm specifically excluding people from my list. Or if you've got Sales Navigator, just build lead lists. Then you have absolute control of who's in that list. We're always beholden on a search results to LinkedIn's algorithmic whims. God, that's quite a mouthful, isn't it? So yeah, just be aware of that and build good quality lists.
Fabulous, thank you very much. So that was Russell's. There's one at the top I want you to just have a quick look at if you can, Giles, and see what you think about that. If you can just
Which one?
From there's
whom?
only 3 on my list. I thought we were looking at the same one. It was time-stamped at 1617. In options I can see.
16, 17. In options I can see there is a LinkedIn limit warning. Where would I see the exact text of this warning? I haven't received an email from LinkedIn mentioning the limits. This is Hagen again. Okay, so good opportunity to demo. Here we go. Back in the options, we see here under the throttling settings, we have here, I assume you are talking about this one, the LinkedIn invitation limit. It's basically a pop-up from LinkedIn that says you're out of invitations for now. Please try again later. The weekly limit blog post covers this, so does the keeping your account safe one. It's basically a trigger, which LinkedIn, you can trigger it with LinkedIn when you send what they consider to be too many connection requests. And it can be the result of all sorts of different things, from the number of outstanding invites you've got, people flagging you as spam, a low social selling index. It could be all sorts of different reasons. You don't get an email, it's literally just a pop-up, and Dux-Soup recognizes the pop-up and pauses for a prescribed amount of time before trying again. As soon as people start accepting your connection requests, you will find that you'll be released from this temporary suspension. And it's only temporary, so yeah. You see here, I last triggered it on the 10th of February last year. Yeah, it's possible to trigger it at any time, and that's usually a result of perhaps sending too many connection requests. But before you play around with all of that, do read the blog posts I've referred to.
I've just done the same thing, I think.
Cool.
We've just had a couple more popped in. Appreciate you. Thanks for your response. You guys are amazing, says Abdul. Thanks, Abdul.
Cool. Thanks, Abdul.
That one's done. Robert has asked, when I view people in my funnel, I see a timestamp that indicates when someone accepts a connection request or responds to a message. Most of the time, I see a timestamp difference of 1 second between my request and an acceptance. Should I avoid looking at timestamps?
Yes.
Done.
Well, one thing to remember, Robert, is LinkedIn is not actually real time. Not everything happens in real time, so you can send a connection request to somebody, you know, to me or to Joe or anybody, and in some cases it takes quite a few minutes, several minutes for that to come through. It very, very rarely happens instantaneously, and that's because the LinkedIn platform is dealing with somewhere in the region of 8 to 9 million page requests per second. So things do sometimes not happen immediately, sometimes they do. I wouldn't look that closely, in all honesty.
Thank you. Kill your boots, Robert, is what he's saying. Just ignore it.
Question from Mark.
Yeah, and
what's
do you know
the difference between in-mail and direct message? Last question then, yeah?
Yeah, last question. And thank you for sending this back, because I deleted it by accident and couldn't remember your name. Sorry, and thank you.
Thanks for hanging on, Mark. Yeah, that's called perseverance. So you deserve a good answer. An in-mail is a premium messaging service that LinkedIn allows you to use if you have a paid version of their platform. Joe is going to share with you the in-mail article again in the chat box in a second, which will cover everything in-mail accordingly. A direct message is a direct message to an existing first-degree contact. So in-mail is the premium messaging. You have a finite number of credits that you can use. If you've got a regular Sales Navigator account, for example, you get 50 credits per month and you can carry over up to 3 months worth. Direct messages are messages to existing first-degree connections, and direct messages to existing first-degree connections are seen as relatively low-risk activity on LinkedIn, because these are people who have accepted to be part of your network. You only come unstuck with direct messaging to your first-degree connections if you don't do what Rob said earlier: nurture, not annoy. If you annoy people, they'll flag you as spam, they'll block you, and then you will not be able to send so many direct messages. That was a quick response. I hope it was thorough enough for you. But yeah, read up about in-mails because it can be incredibly valuable.
Fabulous, thank you very much. Well, that's it then. So it's 17:15, well, on my clock anyway. Obviously, it depends where you are in the world. But an hour and 15 minutes and some amazing questions. So I'll be pinging some of those
Apologies
out.
to anybody who's missed the start of the football. I'm going to be heading off in a second and starting to watch one of my two teams. Ready for an evening of disappointment.
So I think, you know, we've said all the other stuff. If you need some help, give the info guys the email addresses there, the support team an email and ask for a little bit of help if you want some guidance on anything. The recording for those who are still here, that will be sent to you later on today. And join us in 2 weeks.
Gracie, you've got the last question. I'm going to answer it anyway. Does the messages from the drip campaign Dux-Soup show on LinkedIn messages too, or vice versa? Both. You'll see them in your wherever they've been sent. If they're in Sales Navigator, they'll be there in that mailbox. If they're in regular mailbox, they'll be in your regular LinkedIn mailbox. Remember, you only see a connection request message when in your mailbox when somebody accepts. So yes, you'll see them. Sorry, Joe.
Okay, that's fine. Be back here in 2 weeks.
I won't be.
No, you're on holiday, but Johannes will be here having a fun time with me and sharing all about his B2B strategy and how he achieved great stuff. If you want to have a little peruse, then he has a case study with us at the top of our case study page, our success story page with Promonio. So go and have a little read of that, and then you'll know just how exciting that session is going to be. Yeah, that's it, I think, unless I've missed anything. I'm going to say goodbye.
Me too. See everybody in a month or so.
Yeah, take care. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.